Hello. Everyone seems so keen. Let's sit up. There's 3 chairs up here. If everyone wants to come down. More chairs. I'm just saving the stools for them. Hi everyone, my name is Blaise van Hecke. I'm co-owner of Busybird Publishing together with Kev up the back there. He's a videographer tonight. Just so you know, we do video all of our open mic nights and we do put it up on YouTube. So if you don't want to be up, please tell Kev so that he knows. He'll either not film you or we'll cut you out, something like that. As the night goes on, I'll introduce you to other Busybird family members. But we're here tonight for a very special reason, and what a great turnout. This is probably twice as many as normal, which is fantastic. So we're here for the launch of page 17, which you see here. We were in a bit of a dilemma of whether to show people the book at the start of the night, because obviously you're going to see the winners in there. It's not going to be a great surprise, but we didn't know how else to do it, so too bad. So, I have my running list here. I sent my welcome. This is Busybird, obviously. We like to think that this monthly open mic night is a way for people to feel part of a writing community. And I think for those people who come regularly, I think they would agree that it is. We usually have at least 25 people here every month. You don't have to read, you can just come and listen, so if anything it's a cheap night out. But you know, I really encourage any writers who don't get up to get up and read, because it's a really, really good way of improving your writing. So, I'm going to invite Beau up first. Beau is responsible for page 17.
Or the back seats are gone.
He did everything. He did all of the organisation. I didn't have to think of anything until he said, here's the issue ready for layout. Les did the layout. He's hiding up the back there. He's our publications manager. I think you'll agree that the cover's pretty awesome. We all love dogs in here. We spend a lot of time looking at dog videos on Facebook. So we thought that was quite appropriate. So Beau's going to say a little bit about, I don't know, what his experience has been like putting together this issue, and then we'll actually launch straight into announcing the winners. Beau.
I suppose it's lucky I'm not a cat person for working at page 17. So for those that don't know what page 17 is, I presume that not half of you, or most of you probably do already know, but just a quick recap. We're an annual collection of short stories, poetry, and just general contributions mostly from emerging writers and some established writers as well. We launch an issue usually every year. We did have a hiatus last year because, simple reason, I got burnt out and I'm very, very bad at delegating. But we are back this year, and with issue 11 we wanted to make sure that we came back strong, and looking at the turnout tonight and looking at the contributions that we received, the success that we've had so far, even before we've actually launched it and started the sales, I consider it a success, and I think we have come back really strong, and that's fantastic. I'm so happy to see all of you here. Thank you to everyone who contributed to page 17, whether you made it into the issue or not. I loved reading the entire selection that I got. We got hundreds of submissions through the general and the competition, and the cover images as well. It was fantastic to read through them all. And I'm thankful not only to the contributors, but to everyone who helped me put the issue together, because despite what Blaise says, it wasn't just me. I had an entire team working with me, not just a team of Busybird with Blaise. I learned to be a team player. But Blaise, Les, Kev, as well as my own editorial committee, with Stephanie, Kristen, Rosalinda and Ashley, and as well as the judges themselves, Emily Collier and Ashley Capes, and Kevin as well, who was the cover competition judge. A big thank you to everyone who was involved with that process, and a big thank you for everyone who was involved with page 17, even if you're just a contributor, even if you're just a reader, even if you're just someone who enjoys the sort of thing that page 17 is, which is a celebration of new content, new voices, and just celebrating writing, which is what we do here. It's what Busybird does, and it's what I like to do. And again, I think it's been a success so far, so thank you. Thank you very much. Hi.
I have a little thank you for you.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for
Thank you for the thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you've done. We really appreciate it, and it was actually nice not to have to think about it until we got the content. So thank you.
No problem.
So I'm now going to officially say that page 17 is launched. Les did ask me if we're going to have anyone auspicious to launch the book, and I said I'm auspicious enough. So I would like to declare it officially launched, and I think you'll agree that the new format is slightly different to previous issues. We do have a shelf over there with older issues if you want to buy more copies. They're all only $5 tonight if you want to make up the collection. There are actually a couple that are totally sold out, so we can't get them, but the issues that we have done over the last few years, we can get more of. So, I'm going to start with Emily. I can't see where Emily is. Emily, right on the back. Emily was one of our judges, and I'm going to get Emily to talk about her judging experience.
Sure.
And then I'm going to announce the winners. We might do it after. Okay. Didn't think of that one. Okay, well we might just launch into the announcements. Now not everyone's here, so obviously I'm going to read out everyone in case someone's snuck in that I don't know. So I will start with the poetry. So this is shortlisted poetry. Meat Puppets by Leanne Jager. Is Leanne here? No. The Hush by Kevin Gillam. No. I'm pretty sure this person is. Dustbuster Farewell by Nadine Kranenberg. She was coming. Hopefully there's someone here. Love Suffers by Jude Aquilina. Okay. The runner-up for poetry competition is Mood Swing by Lauren. Is that how you say it? Lauren Steinberg. Is Lauren here? Come on down. So you do win some money and you get a little certificate. So well, congratulations. Thank you. Would you like to say? Quite a few people will be reading their pieces in a bit. So the winner of the poetry is What the Fire Didn't Touch by Rachel Mead. Is Rachel here? Okay, I know some of these people are here. Short story, runner-up, The Taste of Cedars by Anne Potter. Is Anne here? I thought you were here, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm going a bit. So congratulations, Anne. The next shortlisted for short story was Pikes Ridge by Ben Greck. I know Ben's here. Come on. Swan Song by Joshua Caldwell. Is Joshua here? I thought he was coming. No, okay. Achilles and the Maple Leaf by Geraldine Borella. Nope. The runner-up for short story, so second place, is Cicada by Maggie Vaness. Pretty sure, yes. So you do this money there, so don't lose it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the winner of short story is Mosquito Bites by Lois Murphy. Lois here? No. And I don't think the cover competition person is here, is it though? Shane Carey. So the cover is a competition winner as well. So we'll obviously send all of those certificates to those people. So we're actually going to, now we'll get Emily to come up and have a tell us a bit about the judging. Thank you.
Thanks. It was such an honour to judge this competition. It was, as Beau said, it was just beautiful to read I love reading all the stories, and it's really, really difficult to judge a competition. That's one thing I learned. But I'm just going to read from what I've written in the book, if anyone wants to read along as I talk, because I didn't prepare anything else. So judging the page 17 with a competition was a real privilege. It was a reminder for me of how, even in this era of information explosion, that intimate act of one writer, one reader, is so essential and so rewarding. Every person's voice is different and every writer offers a unique view of the world. In fact, it was this aspect of the long listed stories that I received, voice, that I found strongest across the board. I loved reading stories about people I felt that I don't get to meet very often in literature. All the stories offered a person who I thought, wow, this is an amazing character. And every story promised entry into a world that would shed light on a unique aspect of humanity. One observation I would make overall about where some stories fell down a little was in the actual word story. Many pieces which were beautifully written or with a great protagonist or fantastic setup didn't feel like complete stories, and maybe could have just done with one more going over to make them feel really complete. But that was the only thing that I kind of had to say as a critique. The shortlist, and in particular the runner-up and winning stories, stood out as having a shape that was really satisfying to read. Something that I would describe as the end being present in the beginning. The most successful pieces curled back in on themselves, so that by the end I felt as though I'd come closer to the source of the story and what the writer was really trying to say. Strong but subtle use of metaphor also lifted the stories off the page. When well used, metaphor acts as a kind of poetic signpost, I suppose. It leads the reader in a particular direction, but then leaves them to make their own decision about the meaning of the story. Cicada seized me immediately with the strangeness of its voice, the uncompromising emotional expression, and a confident use of surrealism that, while surprising, was not jarring. So skillfully had the writer created a world in which anything was possible. Mosquito Bites, which was the winning story, did to me exactly what the title suggests, but in a good way. It got under my skin. The language is sharp and light. The story captures the emotional and social dynamic of its characters with great skill. There is a strong, unsentimental and deeply felt truth to the story. The way it grapples with imperfection, love and complexity is really admirable. It also made me laugh out loud and packs a punch at the end that I felt just as strongly on each subsequent read. I really want to congratulate all of the writers who entered the competition. As I said, they were all really wonderful, and I could feel how much care and work had gone into every story, and each one of them delighted or moved me in a particular way. And I'm sure, and I look forward to seeing more from all of these writers in the future. So congratulations, and thank you for the opportunity.
On behalf of Busybird, I just wanted to say thank you. It's a little gift, and we really appreciate because it is time consuming to read through the story, so we really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Kev, would you like to say something about the cover competition?
I guess.
So, There were quite a few photos that were sent in, and we got it down to 5 different images, and then Kev chose the final one.
Being a photographer, you basically go with your gut, and I looked at about 4 or 5 different entrants, and you know it has to fit a certain format and how it's going to go and the feel of it, and the kind of questions and what people will think when they look at it, and the dog had to be put on there. It just suited the cover, the cropping. You look at it, you wonder what the dog's thinking, what is he looking at. You know, there's all these questions. It's like a story in itself. So to me, it was a no-brainer, and there's a dog.
One thing I find a lot of people don't think about when they enter competitions for a book cover is they don't think of the format. And you know, quite often it'll be a really gorgeous image, but it will be horizontal. And while you might be able to crop it, it doesn't actually work as well. So if anyone out there is into photography and thinking about covers, think about that. So next, Kev. All right. Where's my... Okay, we have quite a few people reading tonight. So I have a little bell over there. This is the first time we've done this. Because we did, I don't know if the last month or the month before, we did go quite a long time, and I probably should have had a bell that night. So I am limiting everyone to 4 minutes. Obviously if you've got a poem, that's easy, but if you've got a piece that's sort of 3,000 or 4,000 words, you're only going to be reading for 4 minutes. Now the good thing about that is, the audience are going to have to buy a book and find out the rest of the story. Okay? So, I might be mixing, you might have seen your name on this list, then I might mix it up. So if you think you were first, you might not be first. If you think you were last, you might not be last. So, I'm actually going to start with Kathy George. There we go. So Kathy George, are you actually going to read your piece from the book?
Yeah.
Yes, cool. Kathy's going to read a piece called Blessed Are the Cracked. Thank you.
The rest of it goes, blessed are the cracked, for they let in the light. This is a story about a guy who was high on drugs and alcohol, but he showed me something I haven't seen. And the piece is, I wrote it for a university assignment. I went to university rather late in life. Right, when university ended for the summer, I didn't write a thing. Mostly, I didn't write a thing because I wanted a break from writing. I'd started a novel as part of an assignment, and it was preoccupying my thoughts to an unhealthy degree. In addition, I was a diligent student. I started assignments weeks before they were due, typing out rough drafts and then spending long hours rewriting and revisiting those drafts. In the middle of dinner, I would excuse myself to make one adjustment to a draft. My husband would sigh, the kids groan, but there it was. Oh, sorry. Even after I finally handed in an assignment, I fretted, knowing improvement could have still been made. A misplaced car on the weekend will drive the 2 hours from the city to our favourite beach. We'll leave at 6 and be back soon after lunch, rejuvenated, glowing. Our friends think we're crazy. Our plan for the beach house was to camp in it for summer and freshen it with a coat of paint. Then we would let it for a couple of years, at least until we were financially stable again. Eventually, I think, we saw ourselves as moving down there on a permanent basis. Tim certainly thought so, and he had said as much, not only to me, but to a few of our friends. As far as I was concerned, that was way too far down. 4 litres of flat white ceiling paint. Towel rails, 2. Putty, check colour, deck varnish. And every now and then when I was up a ladder, balancing a can of paint on the top rung, I thought about my tutor's warning in the dying days of the semester. She'd said, keep working on your novels. Do not take time off. You will lose the thread. And she fixed each and every one of us with a clear, intense gaze, almost as if she knew that taking time off was precisely what we were all hell-bent on doing. The thing was, I knew all this. The thing was, I liked it.
So that is dedication. And Kathy was worried about reading. You seem to read like a pro to me, so well done. Okay. Maggie, Vanessa. Come on down. Maggie is going to read her short story from the book called Cicada. Cicada? Cicada?
Okay. Ali doesn't want to be a stupid moron. It's just that when she tries to communicate, a thick white noise like cotton wool fills her head, and only a syllable or two can escape. Gran told her she was born that way, told her nothing short of a darn miracle was going to change her into a girl with a proper brain, told her the one consolation was that critters liked her. After the tall men came in the night and took her older sister, Ali had lingered by the bedroom window and seen something shiny and cone-shaped flash across the sky. Next morning, when she couldn't explain where Karina had gone, her father whacked the side of her head with his leather belt and sent her to the end of the front paddock, where the waterfowls flap around on the dam, told her not to come back till sundown. She'd sat by the dam all day in her little singlet and shorts, toes scorching in ochre mud, petting the water dragons and kingfishers that came to drink. Ali hoped the tall men would never bring hot nightdress. Karina had drifted away between the tall men, as calm and as a sleepy rattlesnake, bare feet floating well above the boards. Ali hadn't felt at all frightened of the tall men. Their spindly white limbs reminded her of the stark branches of the ghost gum she'd loved to climb during winter. Kneeling on her bed, she'd pressed her forehead to the window and watched their swift departure, the tall men shimmering and Karina's long curly hair reflecting the light of the full moon till they passed over the cow pen in the side paddock. A few moments later, they'd vanished. 4 months later, Mama was on the veranda fanning herself with a piece of cardboard, her gaze fixed on the far end of the driveway, while Ali played beneath the front steps, filling an old pickle jar with her stash of cicada shells. Cicadas were her favourite critters. Last summer, she'd been lucky enough to spy a live one on a twig. Mesmerised, she'd watched the casing split open and a new pale body emerge to unfold its gossamer wings and begin its shrill call. "Mark me words, girl," said Mama from her wicker chair above Ali's head. Ali froze. Mama never spoke to her unless she was in trouble.
I can decide what to read, which is why there's a whole pile of paper, but it's a 2-part poem. Should come in under 4 minutes. Swallow the Desert at Night. Hold still, so still. If you hold still enough, the world might stop screaming. It might pass you by. Like crawling through barbed wire, but it moves around you, and you are stillness personified, inside and out. The faster you go, the clumsier you'll be. Just hold stillness inside you. Go slowly before you hurt yourself, before you hurt someone else. Hold still before they see you. I have a desert for you. There is no wind. It is dark here. The sand was baked into glass in daylight and now reflects the stars at night. If it is anything other than empty, sand settled and compacted, you can't tell. Look closely. It is cold here. No cartoon cacti to break the monotony, a snow globe, devoid of water or fake flakes falling. Turn this world upside down. Shake it all you like. Nothing changes. Rust can't stain this. Look closely. Swallow this and hold still. Part 2 is becoming the wind in the desert. I swallowed the desert at night, a snow globe with no water or snow. The sand reflects the stars and wind begins to whisper over it. Stare at the grains of sand for long enough and I can watch the whispers move. I become to create one new solid thing. Grasp a handful of sand and it escapes through my fingers.
Thanks, Lauren. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, Lauren.
Sorry, I went to an event last night and my name was said wrong, so I'm used to it. Anne Hotter, short story.
Yes, this will come in under 4 minutes. I've just chosen 2 sections. The story is set in Japan, and it's about a foreign woman married to a Japanese man, and she has a problem. To solve this problem, she seeks succor in the Jiso shrines surrounding Tokyo. Jiso is the Buddhist deity of children and babies and other things. She's led to this shrine by an old woman that she finds as she climbs the mountain, which is what you have to do to get to these places. Jiso's carved body is warm and untouched. Just a minute, I forgot my glasses. Oh dear. Jiso's carved body is worn and untended, the crocheted cap on its head frayed like the bleached tentacles of a dying creeper. Its cloak is no more than shapeless bumps. Its child's face, once sharply chiselled eyes, mouth and nose, flat and lifeless. Even its traditional scarlet bib has been forgotten. It must be cold. Ellen has seen many such silent grey creatures throughout Japan. She stood in front of them on busy city streets, wondering at what midnight hour someone has come to plead forgiveness, to clothe its cylindrical body in a red bib, red like the blood-soaked hospital pad. "Isn't this what you're looking for?" the woman asked. She pokes at the rubbish with her stick, the debris of so much grief. Then she sighs and takes a seat on a fallen tree trunk. "They soon forget. Oh, Carl-san, take your time." Ellen starts. The old woman has called her mother. Perhaps many of the women making this climb had wanted to be called mother, but no one's ever used it with Ellen before. The woman says no more, and Ellen turns back to Jiso, trying to see where its eyes and mouth would have been, trying to imagine a tiny mound on its abdomen into fingers. She stretches out her hand to touch it, willing the stone to soften and become flesh, a child's fingers to grasp, and a stomach that she can stroke. She feels a grief so heavy she sinks to the ground, pleading with the confessor to help her. The old woman stands up and, leaning on her broom, begins a long, deep-throated lament. The notes swirl around them, trapping Ellen in words she doesn't understand, but she feels her guilt. The chant calls up Ellen's past. It inhabits the broken cans, the pinwheels, the prayer papers. Now she is exposed, her body, heart and soul. Jiso could do this. The woman strikes her broom handle on the ground. "You thought you could rescue it from the flames, stop the burning, stop the hurting. They all do. Look at this stuff here," she calls out, poking around with her stick. "Take it, wet the baby's head." She thrusts the discarded bottle of water into Ellie's hand. Ellen pours the water over the stone head. Her hand shakes. "You flail Jiso with your tears, but you don't know him. Why don't you speak to the God you know? Tell him you went to a doctor to make it all go away, but every night it comes back to your pillow and makes you cry. Stop pushing stones for devils. They will drive you mad."
That was perfect timing, yeah. I've got a couple of marks here. Mark Prendergast. Mark here, up right at the back. Mark has got a poem called "A Walk Around the Lake." Welcome, Mark.
This is my poem, "A Walk Around the Lake." New shoots are budding on limbs stripped bare. From out of the garden of long ago, we lift our seated father into the air. A skipping girl with flowers in her hair will compare our unsought expertise with what he knows. New shoots are budding on limbs stripped bare. A man may listen well despite his cares. What is that word for places high up from low? We lift our seated father into the air. The wind ruffles the lake, and nestling there again this year are the swans, cygnets in tow. New shoots are budding on limbs stripped bare. We lift our seated father into the air.
Getting a good variety of some stuff. Kristen Martin. Is Kristen here? Yes. Someone else who's come a long way to be here from Adelaide? Yes. So welcome. So Kristen is going to read some of her short story called Mixed Feelings.
Mixed feelings are when you spot a huntsman's spider above the doorway, its velveteen legs and plump body pressed against the off-white wall, as if it harbours daredevil desires to leap from its vantage point onto your bare and unsuspecting head, and the mere thought sends uncontrollable shivers through your body. But your children have been longing for, of all things, a pet spider. And being a kind and considerate parent, you catch it with a plastic cup in a strategically placed sheet of A4 paper and place it carefully inside a cheap plastic terrarium with a red plastic mesh lid. And your children thank you and name it Fangsy until all their friends valuing it as a pet are really not very good at catching a regular food supply, which causes you all to worry that it will starve to death. And being a kind and considerate parent, you do not want to cause the trauma of your children finding their pet curled up dead at the bottom of its cheap plastic terrarium with its red plastic mesh lid. But you also do not wish for it to die. So you learn to catch the moths that mistake your ensuite light for the moon and throw themselves against your bathroom window, their papery wings fluttering against the dirty glass, and which, with a plastic cup and a strategically placed sheet of A4 paper, are actually quite easy to catch and feed to the pet spider. And you discover how amazing it is to watch fly in circles above your head and hope they do not fly into your hair, as the thought of that sends shivers through your body. And you learn that the spider also eats cockroaches, which, despite the use of black plastic bait strategically placed inside cupboards and under shelves, still lurk throughout your house. And this makes you think that the spider is even more beautiful and extraordinary, because the idea of cockroaches running across your head while you sleep sends even larger shivers through your body than the spider ever did. And as you watch its plump body growing plumper, you feel a degree of almost parental affection for it, though before much longer you realise it is actually a she, as you and your children watch with fascination as she spins a cotton wool white egg sac and fills it with hundreds of eggs. And you watch with admiration as, with her now slimmer body, she hugs the egg sac protectively in her 8 velveteen legs and waits for the hundreds of eggs to hatch. And you feel a shared parental thrill as you wait for her babies to be born, while at the same time realising that she has not been with the male huntsman spider for a considerable length of time, and not knowing the gestation period of huntsman spiders, you are not sure if the eggs are indeed fertile and will ever hatch to give your pet spider the joys of parenthood and the chance to feel that she is a kind and considerate parent, which is indeed through your body.
Is anyone going to sleep tonight? Are we meant to eat 8 spiders in our lifetime in our sleep? Something like that. Is Jasmine Giuliani here? Oops. Okay. Jasmine not here? Okay. Paul, South. Yes,
The last couple of times I've here, I've plugged this book and then left before the thing's over, so no one's ever had a chance to buy one, but there they are. You want it, you love it, right? You need it. Okay. Alright, I'll read a little one from here. Clock ticking. I don't think I need this. Bat. This book is about my rats, but there's references through all of them. Like, one half's about my rats and the other half's not. But this is from the non-rat half, but it's kind of ratty. It's called Bat. I stand on a craggy rock. I throw my voice and catch just the end bouncing back. I write nothing, reduce everything to a sound. I've got nothing. I make no apologies. I stagger under the stars like this, the world in empty parentheses, a shadow wrap of my wings. I'm going to do a bunch of little ones. I might miss them. If I run out of time, I run out of time. So I said I'd read a bird one here. I've been saying it for a while, so I'll read a bird one. I've got a little book that I'm just taking like 100 years to write, and it's about 10 pages long. But anyway, this is called Canary Found. I found a canary today. This is not a poem. He was canary yellow, and he sang like a bird. Still is. Canary yellow, I mean. Still sings too. Well, not right now. I mean, in the mornings, when I open the blinds. I'm not being funny. Every word is true. I didn't find the canary. He was there to be found. He was hanging around outside a house. He wasn't hanging. He was bouncing along the pavement. Why is language so draining? I rang the doorbell and he flew to the porch, but no one answered. Then other stuff happened. Went home, got a blanket, came back, threw it over him, brought him home. This is not a poem. You don't need the details. I made a flyer, did a canary found leaflet drop. I'll do two more, I guess. Oh, I'll do a couple of little ones. Love and sex are tied up together. It's a kind of bondage arrangement. Okay. All right. I went on a trip to Lawn with like a mental health program because it was free. So this is Lawn in July. It was like Wednesday or something. Nothing much to advertise it. Grey waves, some rain, a few shops, closed for midweek mostly. It's nothing flash. An op shop, if you're into that. Smell of mothballs and plaque. It's okay. At the beach car park, one seagull, one cocky, one mudlark. Miserable creatures. We huddle round the barbecue. There is no future for us. The present barely exists. Why fight it? I'm not even here. Oh, the horror of early retirement. Perfect time.
Thanks, Paul. Nadine Cranenberg. Nadine, yeah? Nadine was beautiful. No? Marcello. Marcello is going to read his poem Ode to Sappho. No? You read something else?
No, I'm just getting something to come up.
Okay.
As young as well, within the 4 minutes. As young, I love this place, and I always used to call the Medici modern art complex. And seeing so many people, including some from interstate, I'm more than ever convinced that the Medici spirit is well and truly alive here. I was looking through this banner, and I had an exhibition earlier on this year, and the director of the Senior Week for Victoria was present, and my wife and I performed some music, and we took a photo just with this in the background. And he liked it so much that he used this photo for the spill of the tour, 10 concert tour we did with my wife, and then what got printed in over 200,000 booklets. So it's pretty well famous, this. And in my photo you've got a yellow, which is a canary, and the bird that sings, so we are playing and the birds are singing, and it's in a publication It should come out shortly. So I'm really, as you can tell, I'm very, very impressed with Busybird, with Blaise, Kev, Les, and Beau, and everyone concerned. And when I retire shortly, I know that there's a lot of people that will be coming through these doors. But I've got one more exhibition to go. So the other, I finished a drawing last week. My whole body's on fire. Fire that's melting my skin. In my next exhibition I have at Busybird.
Thank you, Marcello. Marcello is doing a poetry book with us, and he will be launching it at next open mic night next month. So look out. Thanks, Marcello. Is Beverly Lello here? Yes, Beverly. I've been waiting to meet you, Beverly. I've seen your name around so much because I used to work at the library as well. And so I've seen your name on lots of competitions that you've won. So it's nice to meet you. So are you going to read from...
Yes, I'll just read this.
Yes, so Beverly's going to read from her short story called Protest. Thank you.
At first, Bethany was a group of words. "You're pregnant, Mrs. Patterson." Then she was a tiny foot kicking at the pliant wall of her womb. Then she was in Susan's arms, scrunched, crumpled and screaming. Flesh at last. She sat, crawled, tottered on plump legs, reached out for comfort when she fell, hugged, kissed, threw tantrums, became a kindy girl, an older sister, a schoolgirl, a hockey player, a singer in a choir, almost a champion swimmer, someone who slammed doors and drove cars and drank and was a source of anxiety to her parents. Then she was someone who provoked discussions about going to university and having a career. Then, surrounded by people holding placards, chanting slogans, surging against barriers, and feeling the heavy press of other bodies. Words said in anger to Bethany, and now regretted, might be made to dissipate, disintegrate, and dissolve if Susan could right a wrong, stop an evil from happening, or put something back that had been taken away. Her husband Alistair would be at home. He would have read the newspaper from back to front. He always started with the sport. He would have completed the crosswords, both cryptic and quick, and then he would have consulted his recipe books, made a list of the things he needed to buy, and walked to the local supermarket. Alistair liked his ingredients to be fresh. He liked to eat, and in his retirement he had learned to cook. This was a task which had always been in Susan's province. My meals are my gift to the family. But when Claire, their youngest, also left to go to university, and Bethany seemed to have evaporated from their lives, she had pushed her recipe books aside and relinquished the role. The police had arrived at the demonstration only minutes ago. Susan clutched the corner of the banner she was sharing with Ainsley, a girl adorned with a silver nose stud and several rings looped through a curve of black eyebrow. Her hair was shaved close on one side and long and flowing on the other, giving her the half-man, half-woman appearance of a circus show freak, although she was far too beautiful to be one. Ainsley also wore fingerless gloves, and Susan watched her tube nails whiten as she tightened her grip on the end of the banner. Confrontation was imminent. Alistair had probably been right telling her not to go. There'll be trouble. A group of protesters behind Susan. A job to be done, her speech bubble was saying. She looks like Bethany, Susan thought, and in that moment, when she realised she might never offer her daughter any such piece of observation again, she let go of her corner of the banner and stumbled down the steps as if she had suddenly torn free from a snag on a branch.
I gave myself a fright. Thanks, Beverly. Pamela. Oh, you're in the front, sorry, Pamela. Pamela is going to read some of her memoir. That's okay. If you like, Pamela, I can put the next person up while you get organised. Shall I do this? Okay. Mark Pengilly. Mark has some humour called Dear Diary. Welcome.
October. Dear Diary, good news. Mum has overcome depression with 2 new hobbies, playing Scrabble and boiling water. The bad news, every night we have alphabet soup. Drove to shopping mall, car park full. Noticed plenty of room, I need to keep my wits about me. Loudmouth at pub tries to impress girls by saying he produces rock videos. Turns out to be geologist. My plastic surgeon is very confident that a nose job and facelift will improve my looks. No doubt I will pay handsomely. My, haven't you groaned? Offered job with Vic Roads that pays the median wage. The bad news, my office is on a median strip. In charge of casting for The Lion King Gets a Mobile. Today we're looking at the role of SIM card. Invited to PowerPoint presentation. No thanks. Who wants to sit around looking at slides of an electrical socket mounted on a wall? Made faux pas at meeting of victims of osteoporosis. Had break to play cards. Suggested snap. Found a brand new torch, batteries not included, in the gutter. Nothing flash. All round good bloke, that's Hugh Jackman to a T. Never quite made it to the big time, that's me to an S. I must be the first person not happy about losing 4 kilos. Damn customs and their body searches. Spent night at pub chatting up an individually wrapped slice of cheese. That's the first and last time I go to a singles bar. Could you laugh a bit faster? I've only got 4 minutes. Made faux pas at meeting of Women Against Eye Gouging. Had break to play cards. Suggested poker. New gimmick at church. Donation and collection plate rewarded with packet of exalted peanuts. The 3 famous people I would invite to my fantasy dinner party are Hitler, Elvis and Mother Teresa. Why? They're all dead. More food for me. After dessert, we could discuss Hitler's book about his cure for dry, chapped skin. Mein Kampf for ice. Phew, 35 degrees and no aircon. Wonder if there are any criminals still at large who'll let me visit to see how they manage to escape the heat. Don't usually get emotional at funerals. This time, thanks to its muscle twitches and spasms, I found the body in the casket incredibly moving. On the freeway with flat tyre, must ring RACV, but no mobile. We'll have to use what's in the boot after all. Opened it and took the phone from the dead body. Saved yet another girl from drowning, but once again failed to get a date. Oh well, plenty more fish in the sea. Summing up this month, a bird in the hand will break your back if it's an emu.
How are you? Are you ready, Pamela? Come on up. Welcome, Pamela.
I'm writing my memoir, and this is an early chapter. about how I took my very first dancing steps. Nag, nag, nag. Oh, my poor mother must have pulled her hair out with a constant bombardment of pleas and tantrums from me to take dancing classes as I continued to be mesmerised by classical ballet dancing programs on the television. Alicia Markova's dancing in Giselle enthralled me. The softness of her arms, the long flowing white gown, and pirouetting on her toes drew me into another world, but the men in straight tights looked very odd at the time. As it was such a new medium, there were only 2 channels, BBC One. I had inherited my father's big hands and cumbersome large feet, knobbly knees protruding from my gawky, skinny, inward-turned legs. But at age 4, everything's possible. My dreaded flu and tonsillitis continued unabated and became so bad, the doctor insisted I have an operation immediately. He also suggested I should take dancing lessons to help my legs grow stronger. My face must have glowed with delight, as Mother agreed. The operation no longer bothered me. Mother bought me a new fluffy dressing gown and pretty pink slippers, and within a week the operation was performed overnight at the local hospital. My throat was very sore, but when Mother came to collect me, I bounced up and down on the bed imploring her, "Mummy, Mummy, can we go to dancing classes? You promised me." But she told me I had to get well first and would take me the following Saturday. Bitterly disappointed, I waited impatiently. The big day arrived. In the morning we left the house and walked around the corner past my primary school and the local park.
You can finish the sentence. Yeah, finish the sentence.
That's fine. The lady continued to instruct her. Step hop, step point your left foot, watch your arms and turn. The music finished. She made a gentle bold curtsy and disappeared into a smaller room at the side to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Didn't mean to scare you. Colleen. Colleen is going to read a short story called Mirror, Mirror. Welcome.
Mirror, mirror. Often we are advised to simply be ourselves, not just because everyone else has taken it, but because it seems like the best option. Yet how many times in life do we imagine stepping into the shoes of someone else and swapping identities, if only for a day? Perhaps one of the beautiful people who is rich, famous and admired by all. So it was that, much like the wicked queen in Snow White, I pulled up a chair before the mirror, drew my face a little nearer the glass and peered hypnotically into my eyes. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all, I asked. Où est mon chéri? The mirror lied. Don't give me that French baguette. Do not despair, sweet pea. Just look deeper beyond the imperfection, the mirror advised. At that moment a winged fairy appeared above my head and waved her wand. A sprinkling of stardust drifted down to form a lacy veil around my face. And when the speckles had settled upon my shoulder, I again inspected the mirror more closely, to witness my features slowly changing. Within seconds I had been transformed, and there before me Jennifer Hawkins gazed back into my eyes, and an alluring smile upon her lips to rival that, with an alluring smile upon her lips to rival that of Mona Lisa. Voila, said the French cheval mirror, which in the interest of a good story failed to contradict the fact that it had never hung from a wall. Wow, I look sensational. How did you do that? I inquired. It was so very, how you say, casting each one aside, like a pesky fly with the heel of my strappy designer platform sandals. My beauty outshone all those around me, and wherever I went the message was the same. This woman is drop dead gorgeous, darling. We must get just one more shot of her. But soon I grew weary of the spotlight, the constantly flashing cameras, the makeup artist forever touching up my lip gloss, and the continual clamour around me. The long-awaited acclaim had become boring and tiresome, as the search for a quiet corner in which to lunch on my ham and pickle sandwich in peace and solitude proved all but impossible. Seated in front of the mirror on the following morning, I quickly found myself staring back at Princess Mary of Denmark. This was a crowds of people tossed flowers at my feet whenever I passed by, and the commoners tried desperately to touch the hem of my skirt or reach out to capture a wisp of flyaway hair that had worked its way free from beneath my tiara. But I was soon to learn that royalty had come at a high price. I longed for obscurity. I longed to dine on a 4-and-20 pie and sauce at the local footy match, back in my old hometown, with everyone wishing to bow down before me. Okay.
Hopefully some of you will come back next month and read the rest. That would be really cool. Coral is going to read a travel short story called Tasman Island. Welcome.
I've known this at 5 minutes, so I'll have to put a few bits out as I'm going, I think. This is from my Tassie memoir, The Edge of the World. I was really looking forward to my cruise around Tasman Island, but at this moment I'm wondering whether I should just slither over the side of the boat and put an end to my misery. Because it's years since I've been on the water, other than boats that do 5 kilometres an hour up rivers, I'd forgotten how seasick I get. In fact, I get sick on all forms of transport, except for some odd reason, trains. I felt queasy on the bus that brought us down to the dock as it rocketed around the hills. The conversation between the driver and one of the other passengers on how dicey it was on these narrow roads and how one lapse in concentration could send us over the edge was not helpful. I desperately want to see the cliffs and the seals and the lighthouse and get the full experience of the wildness of this area, but it's awfully hard with your head in a bucket. Fantastic motto. I've never felt so cared for. And so here I am in -something degrees with the wind from the Southern Ocean blasting through me. You know you're really sick when you don't care what anyone thinks of you, which is lucky when you're making sounds you wouldn't want your mother to hear. The couple I was sitting with had moved discreetly to the other side of the boat. Periodically I lift my head to look at what's been pointed out, then quickly drop it back to safety. I've come to dread stopping as the boat heaves backwards and forwards and I heave with it. I wonder why, out of the 30 or so adults and children, I'm the only one that's sick. Be over soon, says the skipper on the next time around. We're on the home run. He's been saying that for ages and I no longer believe him. Okay everyone, he says, pointing, we'll head through this gap. We make it most times. Before anyone has time to think about what he's just said, the driver puts his foot on the accelerator, we turn on our side and shoot through the narrow gap between a great pointed monolith and the cliff. Tasman Island Cruises have turned a boat skipper, handing me some postcards to make up for the photos you missed out on. He leaves before I have time to thank him. I move the car to a restaurant across the road. A couple stare at me as I enter and sit down. They are on the boat and I interpret their looks as compassion, though maybe they're grimacing. It's hard to tell. Sorry to disturb you, says a nervous voice. It's the woman who walked me up the hill. We've just stayed at an absolutely beautiful B&B and they look after you so well and it's cheap at the moment and I just thought you might like to know about it. She wants me taken care of and I'm incredibly moved. I've got to keep moving upwards, I say. I'm heading back tomorrow. She rushes off, embarrassed that she may have been sticking her nose in where it wasn't wanted. The thoughtfulness I've received today has made the experience almost worth the discomfort. If, as people often say, no one cares about anyone anymore, they need to come to the south of Tassie.
Well done. All fine. Thank you, Coral. Catherine Seppings, come on down. Catherine is going to read a poem called Seville.
It was Seville. I needed to post a letter. Couldn't find the post office or where to buy stamps. Had a map, didn't know how to ask, but this woman took me by the hand through the streets not on my map, and my letter got posted. All I knew was gracias, which I said, squeezing her hand, and she smiled. That night in a bar, a beautiful girl taught me the flamenco, while a group of young men playing drums searched for a song we all might know. Out of all the songs in the whole world, we sang Waltzing Matilda. By midnight, I had joined a group of touring opera singers and laughed at their jokes. I understood the laughter, not the jokes. This was Seville. I had just learned bueno and caliente and frio in our hearts to the swelling embrace of his voice. He walked towards my tears, touching my cheekbones, his hands and eyebrows asking why. I smiled, feeling loved, shrugged my shoulders, shook my head, let it hang, let the tears fall even more, missing her even more. All I could say was gracias. This was Seville. I can't remember language being a problem there.
Thank you, Catherine. Catherine's another person who's travelled a long way from Castlemaine, and Coral comes from Dandenong, so everyone comes. That's a fair drive. So it's cool.
I came from Yakunda.
Yakunda. Cool. Well done. It's cool that people come from all over the place. Emma. Is Emma still here? Emma is going to read a short story which is based on the movie Book Thief. Welcome, Emma.
This term in English, we watched the movie The Book Thief, which is set during World War II, and it follows a young girl, Liesl, as she starts to read. For our assessment, we had to write a creative response on The Book Thief, and this is what I wrote. It's set after World War II. 24th of November, 1951. What do you love the most out of the whole world? The question had sprung to Liesl's mind and fallen out of her mouth before she even had time to think about it. Max looked up. There was the ever-present twinkle in his eyes that hid behind his curtain, his black curtain. When he opened them, he asked Liesl the question in return. The power of words, she answered without hesitation. During her years with Hans, Rosa, Rudy and Ilsa in the time of war, Liesl had learned about words and how they created life and power for the powerless. Ever since the war had ended, Elsa, Max and Alexandra had encouraged her to pursue her talent of writing. Max smiled at Liesl. She mirrored his countenance. Max and Hans had been her guides when she first started to learn how to read. Max was the one who gave her the only thing he owned in order for her to be able to write. He gave her a diary that was once a book on Hitler, but had been painted over. Hans had given her the knowledge, guiding her through the first few books she ever read. She missed Hans and Rosa and Rudy. Rudy missed the most. Max's face fell, and Liesl felt bad asking a question that reminded Max of the war. They didn't talk about the war. My mother, he answered with a solemn face. Liesl knew the story. Max leaving his mother behind on the night when the Nazis attacked the Jews. When Max found out the news of his deceased fell out of her eyes. Sensing Liesl isn't going to resume her unfinished sentence in fear she'll start crying, Max fills in the slightly tense silence with, I never really knew Rudy. At that moment exactly, Liesl realizes Rudy and Max never met. Max never really knew Rudy. Sure, he knew his name, knows his father now, knew where he lived, that Rudy annoyed Rudy to Max. Swallowing the raw sadness and need to cry, Liesl began to tell Max about Rudy. The way his face was pale, but lit up the room in an instant. That night she writes, once there was a boy with hair like the petals of a daffodil that blew in the wind and hung limply on his head. This boy was almost 12 when he met the girl with hair the colour of the sun, always worn in 2 separate braids. The first time the boy saw the girl, he couldn't take his eyes away. The first time this girl saw the boy, she was shy, but the boy stayed anyway. Like the girl's presence was necessary for his survival. The boy with hair like spun gold was called Rudy. The girl with hair that sparkled in the sunlight was called Hazel. Together they could light up the whole world.
Thanks, Emily. You timed that perfectly. I highly recommend Book Thief too if you haven't already read it. That comes to the end of my list of readers. Is there anyone who wasn't on the list because they came late or they didn't put their name down? Would anyone like to read it? David? No? Okay. Someone, I can see a few people nudging. No? Okay. All right, so that's it for the reading. Are you sure you don't want to read? No? Okay. That's been fantastic. Thank you everyone for contributing tonight. I'm sorry I had to limit the reading a little bit because otherwise we would be here till midnight, and I know that some people have come from, have to drive quite a way to get home. So I really appreciate that. We don't always do that. So thank you so much for coming to the launch of page 17. We will be back here again next month for open mic night, so please come again. Anyone who was involved, who contributed to page 17 will automatically go on our mailing list. If you don't want to get our newsletter, just unsubscribe, but you will automatically be on there. So you'll hear about any news that happens at Busybird, because we do lots of great things here, I think. And one other thing I want to mention, in case anyone is interested, on Saturday we will be launching Kev's book, Walk With Me. This is one of the images that is in the book. For those of you who don't know, Kev went on a trek to base camp at Mount Everest, and he took a hold of beautiful photographs, and so he's printing a coffee table book that's gorgeous. It's coming back from the printer tomorrow. So it's not going to get fine at all. So we are launching it on Saturday. We will be having a great party here on Saturday afternoon. We'll be having Nepalese food, Nepalese music, and you'll be able to see the book as well. So open invitation to anyone who would like to come. In the meantime, please hang around, have a cup of coffee, more wine, more nibbles, hang around and chat to each other, and hope to see you again another time. Thank you.
Oh, bring in a cushion next time.
Yes.